In this lesson, we are going to learn about multiplying decimals. After we're done with this lesson, you should be able to answer the question, how do I multiply decimals? Before we get into multiplying, there are a few things I think we need to go over. Did you know that if you need to move the decimal one place to the right in a number, you can multiply by 10? For example, the number 4.2. If you want to make that into a whole number, 42, all you have to do is multiply by 10, and that equals 42. Multiplying a number by 10 is the same as moving the decimal place one spot to the right. In addition, if you need to move the decimal 2 places to the right, you're going to multiply by 100. For example, if you have the number 3.72 and you want to make that into a whole number, 372, you would multiply that by 100, and that would give you the answer 372. Multiplying by 100 is the same as moving the decimal point 2 spots to the right. Now, the reason I bring that up is because sometimes when we're multiplying decimals, we kind of forget what to do with the decimal point. Multiplying decimals is not like adding and subtracting decimals. We do not have to line up the decimal point. If we look at example 1, and we set it up 3.2 times 5.1, in this case, the decimals do line up, but I didn't have to make it that way. Sometimes the decimal points get us confused, so I think it's easier to eliminate the decimal points. For example, if I multiply the top number by 10 and the bottom number by 10, my new problem becomes 32 times 51. And I think we're a lot better at multiplying whole numbers because the decimal point doesn't get in the way and make us more confused. So let's do it that way. Let's multiply 3.2 by 10 and 5.1 by 10 to get rid of the decimal points. So now we have 32 times 51. If we multiply this, we're going to start on the bottom right with the 1. We multiply the 1 times 2 right above it to get 2. And we multiply the 1 times 3 to get 3. Just as we talked about in a previous lesson, when we multiply whole numbers, when we multiply on the second number, on the second line, we need to fill a 0. Now we can multiply the 5. The 5 is going to first multiply the 2 and give us 10. So I write the 0, carry the 1. And then I multiply the 5 times the 3 right above it to get 15, and add the 1 that I carried to get 16. Once we're done with the multiplication part, we add our 2 lines together. 2 plus 0 is 2. 3 plus 0 is 3. 6 and 1. So that's the answer to 32 times 51. 1,632. But our original problem said 3.2 times 5.1. Because we multiplied by 10 in both numbers, that's the same as multiplying by 100. So in order to undo that, in our answer, we're going to divide by 100. So if I divide by 100, that's going to move the decimal point back in. So our answer is going to be 16.32. Now, if I want to just make sure that this is reasonable, I'm going to go back to my original. If I re-look at this and say, okay, 3.2 rounds to 3, and 5.1 rounds to 5, my answer should be something close to 15. And when I look at the 16.32, I think that's very close to 15. So my answer is very reasonable, and I'm pretty confident that we got this correct. Let's look at another example. 3.72 times 1.8. I'm going to write these vertically, and I'm not going to line up the decimals. Okay, but I am going to multiply to make them into whole numbers. 3.72, in order to make that into a whole number, I need to multiply by 100. And that's going to give me 372. The 1.8, I can multiply by 10 and get 18. So now I'm going to multiply 372 times 18. I'm going to start with the 8 on the bottom right, and I'm going to multiply it to each number above. 8 times 2 is 16, so I write down the 6 and carry the 1. 8 times 7 is 56, and I add the 1 I carried to get 57. So I write the 7, carry the 5. 8 times 3 is 24, plus 5 is 29. Again, because we're multiplying and we're moving over to the second number, we need to fill the first spot of the second line with a 0. And now we can multiply by the 1. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 7 is 7. And 1 times 3 is 3. I now just need to add these together. 6 plus 0 is 6. 7 plus 2 is 9. 9 plus 7 is 16, so I write the 6 and carry the 1. And 2 plus 3 is 5, plus the 1 I carried is 6. So if we remember at the beginning, we wanted to multiply 3.72 times 1.8. We multiplied by 100 and by 10, which is the same as multiplying by 1,000. So we're going to divide this by 1,000, which is the same as moving the decimal 3 places back into the number. So 6.696 is what we get as our answer. Now if I check to see if this is reasonable, I go back to my original. If I round 3.72 to 4 and 1.8 to 2, my answer should be something close to 8. 6.696 is pretty close to 8, so I would say our answer is reasonable and correct. I would now like you to try this one on your own. Take a minute to get it set up. Look back at the other examples if you need to, and pause the video. Okay, so if I'm going to start this problem, I'm going to set it up with my 0.43 times 2.6, and I'm not going to worry about where the decimals are and if they line up. I am, however, going to multiply to get rid of the decimals. So I'm going to multiply 0.43 times 100. Hopefully you did the same to get 43. I'm going to multiply 2.6 times 10 to get 26. When we multiply 43 times 26, we start with the 6 on the bottom right. We multiply it to the 3 and the 4 on top of it. So 6 times 3 is 18. Carry the 1. 6 times 4 is 24, plus that 1 we carried is 25. When I move over to the second number, I need to fill my second line with a 0. And now I can multiply the 2 to both the 3 and the 4. 2 times 3 is 6, and 2 times 4 is 8. I can now add these together. 8 plus 0 is 8. 5 plus 6 is 11, so I write the 1 and carry a 1. 8 plus 2 is 10, plus the 1 I carried is 11. Now our original problem was 0.43 times 2.6. At the beginning, we multiplied by 100 and multiplied by 10, which is the same as multiplying by 1,000. So we're going to divide this by 1,000, which takes our decimal point back 3 spots. So our final answer is 1.118. If I were to look at the original problem and round, the 0.43, I really don't want to round that down to 0 because that would make our final answer 0, so I'm going to round that to 0.5. And if I round the 2.6 to 3, now if I multiply 0.5 times 3, okay, 0.5 is 1/2. If you think about what 1/2 of 3 is, it's 1.5. So if our answer is pretty close to 1.5, then it's very reasonable. And 1.118 is very close to 1.5, and therefore our answer is correct and very reasonable. If you have questions about multiplying decimals, we can cover them in class. Thank you for watching.